So, on many of an occasion, I have been told to cover this boss, or, well, this figure inside the Halloween lobby. Here, very clearly, someone has gotten on top of the model of... we'll talk about it later. That boss in question can be found not on that side of the lobby, but this side of the lobby. As you can see over there, the remains of an enemy that was planned to be in Tower Defense Simulator, but has not. Now, this enemy does have multiple names, as you might expect, and in fact, outside of this leak of this enemy, I probably wasn't able to talk about it. However, since this leak has been added, I guess, to the Halloween area, I have been given permission to talk about anything that's been public. So if there is anything that I have missed out, it's probably likely because I can't talk about it. But hopefully there should be some things about this enemy that could become clear, since the checkered history of this has been all over the place. Now, the fact that it is in the Halloween area suggests that it could perhaps relate to the Halloween event. After all, at the time of recording this video, there have been no official leaks for the Halloween event. We only know, we can interpret from the area around here that there's old Krampus stuff here, the Abyss and the Star Cannon. I have accidentally leaked, well, said the name of this enemy, which is going to be the subject of this video, which suggests that perhaps it has some relation to the three nights that's seen off here. So Krampus may relate to like night 1, this enemy here, the Abyss, as I've called it, could be related to night 2, and then the Star Cannon could relate to night 3, or however this game does its nights. But what about the enemy itself? As I've already said the name of the enemy, you may question how I got the name of the enemy, but that's just one of the names for the enemy. For there actually is another name for this enemy that you probably know this more commonly by, the Corruption. This is because there is actually a Roblox toy which has the enemy in question, which looks very similar to the version that's seen inside the Halloween lobby. And of course, I have unboxed it. This is part of the Cyber City toys, and at the end, or like during the middle of it, you can see that the Corruption here is seen, and it has a similar crown, it has a similar chest plate, and it has a similar legs, which means that yes, this is the enemy in question. Now, this set here does have some things that aren't accurate. So, for example, there is the medic shown off here. The reworked medic was leaked in 2020, and this version would be seen in those leaks. However, as you may know, in 2025, the medic was reworked, and it would not use this appearance whatsoever, not for its default skin, not for its cyber skin, which it would have been maybe interpreted as the cyber skin, given that the toy was called Tower Defense Simulator Cyber City. But also, you do see the Corruption enemy. Now, from what I gather from this is Roblox used the assets of the game in question, obviously Tower Defense Simulator in this case, and the developers fed them with like the assets they were going to use in the future, or the assets that they had currently in the game. Now, obviously, the Ranger, the Soul, and the Soul Stealer, and the DJ booth, they are already in the game, so fair enough for Roblox to be using those. The medic, they gave, it looks like, the reworked version of the medic rather than the current version of the medic that was used in 2020. And obviously for Cyber City, there has the updated version of Cyber City that at the time was being used in Tower Defense Simulator. Obviously, it's been reworked in 2024, so that is a completely different version to the one that's seen here, but for the time it was accurate. However, the only enemy that wasn't seen in the game from this box was the Corruption enemy, and it's very clearly called Corruption. Now, there are some other enemies that have been leaked, or well, some other things that have been said that aren't entirely accurate. So, for example, there is an enemy that Roblox did sell as part of the Mystery Figures set. Well, no, actually, it wasn't a Mystery Figure set. It was a pack itself, the Riot enemy. And this Riot enemy would actually not be seen in Tower Defense Simulator. I could speculate on that, but that's not the purpose of this video, and Below Natural probably would have my balls for Christmas decoration if I ever talked about it. However, the Last Stand did have some things that were not seen in the game at the time. So, for example, the Engineer Tower, that was not seen in the game when this was released in 2021. The Engineer Tower was released in 2022. The Sentry appears here despite being removed since 2020. It was originally for the Engineer Tower, and the Neko DJ booth, that was not really called the Neko DJ booth in this pack. It was called the Starcat Singer. Now, the wiki says that it's improperly called the Starcat Singer. It's just whatever Roblox called it, and I guess the Roblox didn't want to call it Neko, so fair enough. But for the most part, Roblox sets, Roblox toys, have things that aren't entirely accurate to the game, but may have been planned for the game. So, like I said, the Engineer Tower, it may have not been released at the time that this pack was released, but it would be released later on down the line, since it was planned for a release in 2020, 2021. So it's fair enough why this is here. And obviously, the elephant in the room, the Mark, I believe, 2 that this is, it was planned to be released with the Mecha Base, and the Mecha Base was planned for release in 2020/2021, but obviously, as we know, that wasn't the case, and this unit is still a admin-only tower from the Mecha Base, and there is no planned release for that, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, interestingly enough, the enemy that the corruption is called by Roblox, it holds a sword. However, this sword is not actually the corruption's sword. This is actually the broadsword from the Void Reaver, and the Void Reaver has never been released as a Roblox enemy. And you can also see on the corruption there's an eye here, which I don't think is seen inside the lobby. Not entirely sure if this is a Roblox creative thing, or if when the corruption was meant to be released, or well, an enemy that looked very similar to the corruption was meant to be released, it would have this eye. However, with that being said, there is a version, an icon of the corruption enemy or the abyss enemy that can be seen, and it does indeed have an eye. You can also see that it has diamond plated everything, I guess. It has diamond plated arms, its chest plate is also diamond plated, its legs are diamond plated. The only things that aren't diamond plated are its shoes, which are neon white. And also you can see that it doesn't have a broadsword. No, it instead has something that looks like a hammer of sorts. But the enemy model that's used in the Halloween lobby does not have any weapon of any description on it. So we don't have to assume that, for now at least, the hammer may have been used for this Abyss/Corruption enemy. Now, this enemy has actually been illegally leaked in the past as the Abyss enemy, hence why many people refer to this as the Abyss enemy. And if you knew it from the pack, it's called the Corruption enemy. Which name is it? Like I said, with like the Starcat Singer, it's anybody's guess. Like, Roblox could have renamed the Abyss to the Corruption, given the fact that it probably sounds more proper for a Roblox pack rather than just Abyss. But at the end of the day, this is an unreleased enemy, so who knows what the name for this enemy is. However, when this was first leaked, many people thought that this would be the replacement for the Fallen King. There's been some speculation at the time in 2021 that when Fallen mode would be reworked, the Fallen King would be replaced with whatever this enemy is, and many people thought that this would be the Fallen King replacement. Now, as we know, the Fallen King wasn't replaced. In fact, it was an entirely different mode that had a boss replacement, that being the Molten boss for the Molten Warlord. However, there was some speculation, and one of the original testers, head testers back in the day, back when this was first being tested, said, in response to everyone, saying that it's not the Fallen King Legacy, it's the 2021 PvP boss that never saw the light of day. Now, PvP mode was planned for a release in 2021, and you can actually see some footage of this in the Roblox cinematic trailer. This shown off here is the 2021 version of PvP mode. You can see a red flag here, and you can see some blue barrels there. So this is a red side and a blue side. So yes, there was a planned release date for PvP mode in 2021 that never came to be. I can speculate on why that is, because I think I kind of know the reason, but that's not part of this video. Now, I think it's safe to say that if the 2021 version of PvP mode were to be very similar to the current version of PvP mode that we have today, maybe, perhaps, the enemies that are seen in here look very similar, or were planned to be added to the 2025 version. So you can see it's like some enraged enemies. The enraged enemy was actually added, but in a completely different style, and these enemies weren't actually added. The only unique enemy we actually do have in 2025 for PvP mode is the Champion Templar, and you think it would be safe to say that, given the fact that the Corruption enemy looks like it was a boss, given the fact that it appears in the Halloween lobby, and the fact that it looks like it has a large appearance, and the fact that it has a weapon of sorts, means that it probably could fulfill the purpose of the Champion Templar being the last boss, or the last major boss that appears in PvP mode before it loops over. Tom, the tester, would also confirm this, saying that's the old PvP boss in reference to the corruption toy. It's from 2021 PvP tests. I thought I'd never see it again. So yes, very clearly this was from 2021. And yes, I can confirm that there were some tests for PvP mode in 2021, but they weren't released. And this is the footage that I guess the developers sent to Roblox for whatever Tower Defense Simulator had coming up for the next year or planning for 2021. But it was never to be. Also, I refer to this as the Awakened Fallen King. There was, there's a similar appearance to the Awakened Fallen King to this corruption slash abyss enemy slash whatever the new enemy is going to be called. But it's not the same version. I think that the Awakened Fallen King, the original version of it, it took inspiration, or it actually inspired the corruption enemy, hence its appearance. But that was also scrapped, and the Awakened Fallen King would return later on for a remodel version similar to the Fallen King when Hidden Wave was re-added. And with that being said, those are all of like the public leaks. They mentioned by Tom, mentioning that they're pulling a bunch of obscure slash old TDS content for the Halloween event, and it may explain why Blow Natural tweeted the Mercenary based render from Layby, and it would be very interesting to see if the Mercenary Tower is actually the event tower for this upcoming Halloween event. I really doubt it though. But yes, those are all of the leaks that I can publicly say about this abyss slash corruption slash whatever the new name for this enemy is that is lying within the lobby. For all we know, the new name of this enemy is going to be Lewis Hamilton. So yes, congratulations to the Lewis Hamilton enemy. You are now being added to Tower Defense Simulator.